Good morning, fifth graders. Today we have another science video. It is kind of a continuation of yesterday's video, but moving along. So the sheet you had yesterday, the bottom half of it is about what we're going to be talking about today. So once you're done with it, this video, you can fill out the rest of that sheet and then submit it. So the topic today is energy in an ecosystem. And the question we're going to be able to answer at the end of the lesson today is, how does energy move in an ecosystem? So there's going to be lots of vocabulary words here, so you should have out your notebook and be prepared to pause. Anytime you see a word up on the screen that has a definition, please write that down. I will be talking about each word as we go along. Alright, the first thing that we have, the first thing that's producing energy in an ecosystem is called a producer. These are going to be your plants for the most part. There may also be plankton in the ocean, but for the most part on land it's going to be plants. And as we know, plants go through the process of photosynthesis, in which they create their own sugars and nutrients. Their roots bring up water and minerals from the ground as well. But by and large, the plants are making their own food. They are called producers. They produce energy inside themselves so other animals and other things can come eat them. And those things that come and eat the plants are called consumers. So a consumer is a living thing that gets energy from another living thing. So, you don't see many lions eating grass, but here these deer would eat grass. A lion's not going to eat this white-tailed deer because this is in Africa and this is in North America. But you get the idea that a deer gets its energy from the grass it eats, and a lion gets the energy from the animal that eats the grass. So a consumer is a living thing that gets its energy from another living thing. That's pretty much everything except plants. Alright, then we have decomposers. Decomposers are your fungi. I always have a problem saying that word, fungi. You'll see mushrooms growing off of other rotting plants. Those are fungi. Sometimes you might get a fungus in between your toes. It's the same thing. A decomposer, those are living things that get energy by breaking down the bodies of dead plants and animals. That sounds gross, but it's very important because that's how everything decays and rots. We need decomposers to basically eat the dead plants and dead animals and the sort. So this can include fungi, but it's lots of little microorganisms that you can hardly see as well. Those are decomposers. The next are groups of animals. So we saw this picture of the deer before. The deer is an herbivore, and that's an animal that eats mainly plants. For the most part, you might have some, I don't think many herbivores eat much meat, but for the most part, their diet consists of plants. Now, if this was a person, you'd call that a vegetarian. A vegetarian just eats plants, a person. But this is a herbivore. It's an animal that eats mainly plants. So, you can think of anything that grazes: cows, goats, elephants. Elephants don't eat meat, believe it or not. Rhinoceroses, if they eat grass, they're an herbivore. And it's not just grass. Giraffes don't eat a lot of grass. They eat leaves and trees. So it's anything that's eating something from plants. That's an herbivore. The next is a carnivore. A carnivore mainly eats other animals. Now, there are some carnivores who may eat some grass a little bit here and there, but their main part of their diet is other animals. So the lion is a good example of that. But, bears eat a little grass, but they're mainly carnivores. Wolves, dogs, those are carnivores. Cats, even your house cat, they're eating meat. So anything that eats other animals is a carnivore, mainly, I should say. Then you have an omnivore. that is an animal that eats both plants and animals. So there's a bear there. Bears will eat some plants as well. They eat berries and that sort of thing, but I think a lot of their diet comes from animals as well. Humans would be considered omnivores because we eat plants and animals as well. So any animal or any creature that eats animals and plants is an omnivore. So we have herbivores, eat plants. Carnivores, eat meat. Omnivores, eat both. And of course that energy they get from what they eat all originates from plants. So the plant grows, the herbivore eats the plant, then the carnivore eats the herbivore. And then they both die and the decomposer decomposes them and gets that energy that originally started with the plants. I guess you could say it originally started with the sun because that's where the plants get the energy from. But you can see the flow of energy from the plants to the herbivores to the carnivores and then to the decomposers. We have another group here, the scavenger. A scavenger is an animal that eats other animals that have been killed by other things. So if you ever watch a documentary on Africa and they're showing a lion killing a wildebeest, and after the lion's done, other animals come and scavenge what's left. These are vultures. Vultures don't kill animals. Rather, they wait for animals to die or get killed and they eat the scraps that are left. That's a scavenger. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about food chains, but I'll show a video about this as well, and we'll put the link to that video from YouTube here. But a food chain is basically what we've been talking about. Here, this would be an ocean food chain. So these are eggs here, probably from some sort of fish. And you have a shrimp that eats the fish. Whoops, I accidentally moved it. So the shrimp eats the fish eggs. And then a fish eats the shrimp. And then a seal eats the fish. And then a polar bear eats the seal. So at the top of the food chain is the polar bear. What eats the polar bear? Well, the polar bear since it's called an apex predator. It's like who hunts polar bears? The only thing that's going to kill a polar bear is a human. Except when the polar bear dies, you get decomposers coming in to decompose its body. So maybe decomposers are really at the top of the food chain. That's quite the question, isn't it? So this is an example of one food chain. Here's a couple others. You have corn. A rat eats the corn. Of course, the corn gets its energy from the sun. The rat eats the corn. The owl eats the rat. So here, does anything eat the owl? Probably not. I mean, not many things hunt owls. Another one, you have carrots growing, getting their energy from the sun. The rabbit gets the energy from the carrot. The fox kills the rabbit, which gets energy from the carrot. And then a lion eats a fox. I don't know how many foxes are in Africa. There probably are. But the lion, you can see how the energy flows here. It starts with the carrot and ends up with the lion. Here you have grass. A grasshopper eats the grass. The frog eats the grasshopper. The python, holy cow. Pythons, I think, would go after bigger meals than a frog. The python eats the frog, and then the eagle eats the python. And because eagles probably aren't good eating, they don't eat it. So over here we have microorganisms, and I think this is plankton. So the microorganisms in the water get eaten by the plankton. The plankton gets eaten by smaller fish. Smaller fish get eaten by, this looks like tuna. Then it looks like a dolphin may eat tuna. And this looks like a shark. I don't know if sharks eat a lot of dolphins, but they might. But that's the way, that's the food chain. It's how energy moves from one creature to another. We'll skip that. There's food webs. There's different ways to connect this. So you see how all of this is connected. This tree produces food for this chipmunk, and this chipmunk gets eaten by some of these birds. I mean, there's different birds that eat it. I'm not going to focus so much on food webs. The video may show that. And this is just another food web. So it's how food is all connected. So the question is, we have energy pyramids too. So An energy period is a diagram that shows how the amount of energy for consumers changes as it moves through a food chain or food web. So there's lots of energy down here, but as it moves up, you have less energy and less creatures enjoying that energy. I think this next one shows it better. So decreasing number of organisms. So lots of organisms down here, fewer and then fewest. And there's a decreasing amount of energy as we go up. So some energy gets lost through the transfer from creature to creature. I'm not too worried about you guys knowing this. Here's another one. So here's the producers. The primary consumers are these insects, and these things eat the insects, and these things, tertiary means third, they eat the secondary creatures, and then the quaternary consumers, that would be the fourth level, eat all this. So this energy, there's as you go up, there's fewer and fewer consumers, and I suppose nothing's going to really eat this eagle here or hawk or whatever it is, and that's why it's at the top of the food chain. So we'll talk about the carbon cycle later, but how energy moves through an ecosystem was our question, and the answer to that is it starts with producers, which are plants. Consumers eat the producers, and so that energy from the sun gets transferred to the plants. The plants give their energy to the consumers, and then the consumers eat other consumers, basically. That's how it goes until you get to decomposers, which ultimately win. All right, that is the end of today's video.